Hello, 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 folks. Welcome back to Holding Space. Melinda Zappone, if you're on Substack. Enya, everyone needs you always if you're on YouTube or Spotify. I hope you guys are not getting sick of me saying it's just such a combined, perfect um, title for the way we come together here, acknowledging, yes, you have to hold special space when you're doing inner work, but also everyone needs each other to do this work because then we are having healing conversations. We are being healthy mirrors. And so, yeah, we're just here with these two concepts that mean so much to me. And I hope they mean a lot to you too. And we are also coming with the concept that brokenness is an invitation and should not be looked at as something wrong or bad, and developing You Are Not Broken University, and sharing the first book in what I hope to be a trilogy, You Are Not Broken, break free from the fixing yourself mindset with the toolbox approach and the phases of healing. Let's get into it, guys. What we're going to talk about today is, can we actually accept transformation? Why peak moments don't change our lives and what actually does. We all imagine that transformation begins with a single illuminating moment, the insight that changes everything, the awakening that finally lifts us out of depression, patterns, exhaustion, or pain. But what happens when the moment comes and life stays the same? When clarity doesn't convert into change, when the awakening fades, or when the new self we glimpse slips through our fingers? What is this transformation that we're looking for? The 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 glimpsed epiphany that slips through our fingers, that's where the real work begins. This article asks a harder, quieter question. If you're reading, if you're listening, you're just listening. How do we transform? It asks whether we can accept the truth that transformation is not the moment itself, but the capacity we build afterward. If you've ever felt the sting of an insight that didn't stick, or the ache of wanting to become someone your nervous system isn't ready to sustain, you are already standing at the threshold of the question, can we accept transformation when it doesn't look or feel the way we hoped? So I'm going to start with a story of a man that came to therapy. Recently, someone came to me privately after doing couples work with his partner. He was struggling with a depression that felt heavier than anything he had faced before, and he carried symptoms that resembled trauma enough that it showed up in the way his mind and body reacted to stress. Yet, despite this weight, he was pushing himself to finish a book on meditation that had once felt like his life purpose. Years earlier, a powerful meditation experience had cracked something open in him. It felt like a peak moment and an awakening he believed would change everything. He imagined it would heal his exhaustion from years of overfunctioning, ease his emotional burden as the family, like, steady one, and finally lift the fog of sadness he carried. But instead of transforming him, the insight faded. The moment passed, the clarity didn't hold, and now, as he tries to write about that early awakening, he feels like he is documenting the ghost of something that never became real. He said it felt like writing a letter to a version of himself he can no longer access, a meditation mindset he misses like a lost relationship. He didn't want to write that book, but he was attempting to regardless. In his heart, he wanted a different story. He wanted to write the version where the eye opening experience changed his life forever. Instead, he was writing about the journey that didn't complete itself, about non transformation. During one session, we took a mindful approach, like two Tibetan monks who often use water to understand life. We wondered together whether water questions the place it flows, or whether it simply bends, shifts, and continues in the direction life shapes for it. When water fills a glass, does it feel trapped and helpless, or is it still assured it is the same water it always was? If water is transformed into vapor after its flow is cut off by the end of our morning shower, is it bad or sad about clinging to the mirror in a haze, or accepting it's still just as clear as it always was? I paused at one point to put it directly in between us with clarity. Water doesn't resist what happens. Why should we? I think nature is there to hold our attention and speak the truth. Mother Nature is the one true mother of all of us. It's not hard to listen, but it is hard to stop your mind so you can. That was the kind of clarity we had between us, and we explored whether he was resisting transformation itself, wanting the moment to be enough instead of accepting that becoming a different person, writing a real story and not just a research concept, requires capacity, time, and involvement long after the awakening fades. Which brings us to you guys. If you're reading, if you're listening, what if the unfinished book or the unfinished things we haven't been successful at are not a failure but part of transformation? What if the discomfort of not completing the story the way we imagined is itself the next the next step of it? As you move into this, consider whether you too have struggled with the part of transformation that no one talks about, the part where the insight was real but living it out feels impossible, and whether accepting the gap instead of fighting it is actually where transformation begins. So, can we accept transformation? We are a culture hungry for the moment. The instant when clarity hits and everything changes. We fantasize about waking up one morning and declaring, I'm done with depression. I'm done being lonely. I'm done carrying the weight in my body, in my heart. I'm done with the same relational pattern. I'm done with alcohol, scrolling, or work. I'm finally going to heal from this trauma. And sometimes there really is a moment, an eye opening realization, a rock bottom, a startling experience of truth. The fog parts. We can see our life on the other side of the canyon. But here's a part we rarely name: a peak moment is not transformation, it's an opening. Transformation is what we do next, especially after the feeling fades. Insight lights the path, capacity carries us down it. So I'm going to share with you an anecdote, as I like to do. um, I don't know, let's call it robots in disguise. When I was a kid, we had Transformers, those blocky little robots that folded and clicked into cars, jets, or creatures. Their tagline was robots in disguise. And the magic was in how effortlessly they shifted forms. You twisted a leg, rotated an arm, flipped a panel, and suddenly the robot wasn't a robot anymore. It was thrilling, clean, and instant, a cool trick. Back then, that simplicity sent a message I didn't realize I absorbed. Transformation should be easy. You should just click into the next version of yourself. No discomfort, no mess, no grief, just a new shape. But what those toys taught us without meaning to is that the difference we still confuse as adults is that between transforming versus is the one between transforming and transformation. Transforming is the moment. It's visible, sharp, and brief, a change of form, a shift of parts, the thing everyone notices. But transformation is something entirely different. Transformation is internal, slow, uncomfortable, sometimes agonizing, and often invisible. It asks you to sit in uncertainty, to learn or unlearn, actually, protections, to grow emotional muscles you never used. It asks you to hold yourself together while something deeper reorganizes inside you. The problem is that most of us are chasing the Transformers version. We want to twist a few emotional appendages and hear the satisfying click that tells us the change is complete. We want the moment, the cool trick, and not the process. But transformation, the real kind, is not a trick. It's a capacity. It's something of us that no toy ever did. No one ever showed us. And so, can you tolerate the in between? Can you live inside the process that isn't quick or clean? The point isn't whether we want transformation, it's whether we can accept that it won't feel like the quick shift we grew up believing in, accept that the difference between transforming and transformation is the difference between a moment and becoming someone capable of holding that moment long after it passes. Accepting that difference is where the real journey begins. So let's talk about the myth of the moment. We've been sold a comforting illusion that clarity is enough to change us. We've been sold the story that understanding drives change, that a single moment, a single realization, a single shattering epiphany will finally reroute the entire architecture of our lives. We're told things like, once I understand it, I'll stop doing it. If I'm motivated enough, it will stick. When I hit rock bottom, that'll be a turning point. If I hit my point, I'll never go back. If I just get this, I will do it. But this is the myth, the part of the mind that longs to be rescued by a moment, the romantic part, the inner child who still hopes for a main character turning point, a single night where everything makes sense and everything changes. Understanding is not useful. Insight, the inward seeing that reveals how you've acted, interpreted, or felt, absolutely matters. Insight updates the internal navigation system, it revises old codes, it prepares the ground. But insight isn't what moves behavior, the body does. Your body, in relational safety with yourself and others, with capacity built slowly through micro changes practiced over time. Moments can open the door, yes, but they cannot walk you through it. Change is not born in a flash of inspiration. It is born in the long, quiet rewiring that follows and in the tiny, repeated acts of staying, trying again, repairing what breaks, and choosing differently, even when your nervous system begs you to choose the familiar. Moments can wake us, but only one time. The support, the time, and gentle repetition keep us awake. The real story isn't harder, only longer. It's just not the myth that sells easily because it doesn't promise brevity or instant transformation. It promises something far better, a change that actually lasts. The truth, insight, is often powered by activation, a surge of emotion and energy, and activation is temporary. When the nervous system returns to baseline after activation, life changing moment isn't actually life changing unless it is followed by tiny moments of staying with new micro behaviors. Otherwise, the old grooves of the brain's pathways will call us back. The brain is quite literally more activated by familiar patterns than unfamiliar ones. Insight may light up a new pathway, but it can only stay lit and eventually become as selectable as the familiar ones through repetition, through staying, through trying again, through repeating the new choice until the body begins to trust it. Otherwise, the depressive pull resurfaces, the familiar relationship dynamic knocks, the craving whispers, the evening isolation returns, the trauma symptoms hum underneath. We misread this as weakness or failure. It's not, it's biology and learning. Our nervous system is patterned to keep us safe using what it already knows, even if what it knows is painful. Transformation requires capacity, not just clarity. Capacity is the unglamorous engine of real change. It is the difference between a life interrupted by epiphanies and a life steadily rebuilt from the inside out. Capacity looks like feeling more without collapsing, facing discomfort without shutting down, soothing your system when it spikes or sinks, staying with the new behavior after the high of insight is gone, and holding the identity you're becoming, not just visiting it. Insight gives you the map. Capacity builds the road one brick at a time. It's that yellow brick road, but not a fantasy one. The eye opening isn't the arrival, it's the invitation. A moment of clarity asks a quiet, brave question. Will you rebuild yourself? Rebuilding asks for more than motivation, commitment over intensity, embodiment over intellectualization, practice over perfection, patience over punishment, self compassion over self critique, a regulated nervous system over forced willpower. It isn't that you can't change. The challenge is that no one can live in a new story with an old nervous system. We must accept transformation as a concept and then move into it knowing it is a commitment, a practice, and nothing to do with willpower. A trauma informed view of capacity is nervous system work is as follows. When we talk about building capacity, We're talking about the brain body system that learned how to survive your life. If your history includes chronic stress, neglect, abandonment, betrayal, chaos, or trauma, your nervous system likely adapted through one of the patterns that I will speak about. These patterns form when you spend too much time outside your window of tolerance, WOT, the zone where you can feel stress without being overwhelmed. Staying outside that window for too long teaches the nervous system this is how I survive when I'm overwhelmed, rather than I can move back inside my window and eventually expand it gently and safely through small doses of stress or distress. Small doses. I can learn and expand. Instead, we learn just how to stay outside of it. The patterns below, or that I will speak about if you're listening, are expressions of the polyvagal nerve, this information highway running through your entire system. It can feel like a ladder you rarely get to climb all the way up, but the top of the ladder, the ventral state, is where we feel safe, connected, grounded, and able to engage with life. The states happen to all of us. Sometimes, though, they become patterns. So, hyperarousal, or the sympathetic state, urgency, anxiety, irritability, perfectionism, control, can become a pattern. Hypoarousal, or the dorsal state, shut down, heaviness, numbness, sadness, disconnection, that can become a pattern. And cycling back and forth between the two can also become a pattern. So fight, flight, collapse, fight, flight, collapse. These are not character flaws, they are survival strategies your body learned when it had no other choice. What capacity building actually means physiologically: increasing your polyvagal tone, better ability to come back from stress, widening your window of tolerance, more room for feeling before overwhelm, integrating top down and bottom up processing, the mind and the body in dialogue, updating condition predictions. Your system learns that the present is safer than the past it remembers. Please, please, please message me for practical ways to build capacity, trauma informed ways, or click on the link that I provided in both the show notes and on Substack Holding Space um, for therapy intensives. I would love to hear some discovery calls coming my way. All of that is free until you feel ready. And like we've prepared a therapy intensive that works for you. So please consider messaging me or clicking on the link. The 3 phases of living a transformation after the peak phase fade. So I'm just going to give you a little snapshot into that so that you really understand this. You think of transformation as a cycle you'll repeat, each pass deepening mastery. So you'll go through these cycles multiple times because we're always learning, we're always meeting with new relationships to work, actual people or activities, and internally. So phase 1, opening, insight. This is the moment the light gets in or the moment something cracks. You suddenly see what you couldn't see before, not because you weren't trying, not because you were in denial, but because your nervous system finally had enough safety or capacity to let you see it. It feels like relief and panic braided together. Helpful move here: name the thing you now see, write it down, tell someone who feels emotionally safe, not to announce a new you, but to help the insight land in your body. The common trap in the insight phase is believing the insight is the transformation, overpromising, declaring, I'll never do that again, or assuming clarity will carry you the rest of the way. A gentler alternative in this phase: choose one tiny shift you can repeat for 7 to 14 days, small enough that your nervous system doesn't rebel, small enough to succeed. Phase 2, stabilizing, this is the capacity building stage. This is where most people think they failed, but really this is where transformation is actually built. The high fades, the insight quiets, the body pulls you back toward the familiar. This phase is about practicing the new thing after the spark is gone, the emotional equivalent of learning to walk while the ground moves beneath you. The helpful move here: tiny, consistent repetitions, a micro behavior paired with a nervous system regulation moment. The size matters more than the result. Micro, micro, micro. Common trap here, the shame spiral when old patterns resurface, thinking if I really understood, I wouldn't be here again. Like I'm an idiot. That kind of thinking. A gentler alternative, measure your progress by practice, not perfection, by effort, not outcome, by how often you can return to center, but not by judging or counting the times you leave it or demanding that it be rare in order to be healing. So, this is the phase where capacity grows quietly and slowly in the background. Now, phase three, integrating. This is identity, making it your identity. One day, almost without noticing, you start to feel like the person you've been practicing becoming. Not every day, not perfectly, but reliably enough that you can sense a shift. I'm not pretending anymore, something in me actually changed. This is identity work and the phase where your nervous system begins trusting the new pathway, not just visiting it. The helpful move here, make choices aligned with your values, especially under stress. Integration is about who you reach for when you're overwhelmed, the old pattern or the person you're becoming. Common trap here, sabotaging when things start to improve, feeling that upper limit fear of or the discomfort of life going better than you're used to. That's a thing, and it can be a trap. A gentler alternative, expect ambivalence, welcome the wobble. It means you're entering territory your body never got to grow into before. And then repeat the three. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Not because you're broken, but because you're human. Each cycle teaches you something new. Each round reshapes your capacity just a little further outward. Each transformation is really a series of conversations between the person you've been and the person you're becoming. This is the work, slow, durable, honest change, not the myth of the moment, but the practice of becoming. Accepting transformation means accepting humanity. Transformation isn't a cinematic montage, it's the quiet courage to tend the fire after the sparks fade. It asks you to stop auditioning for a future life and start rehearsing the one you're building with small, kind, daily choices that your nervous system can absorb. It asks you to accept that ambivalence will visit, that old patterns will tug, that your body remembers self abandonment survival as familiar, that you can also learn to remember, too, how to return to yourself. The question is not can you change? You can, and you already have. The deeper question is can you accept the process of becoming someone who can stay changed? Can you accept that transformation is not a moment to reach, but a capacity to build? If so, you don't need another peak experience. You need a plan your nervous system can love and a life you practice into being. So, bringing it all together, once again, I want to offer you why to consider a 3-day healing intensive. When patterns shape our lives for years, it's hard to know where to begin. Healing can feel abstract or endless, but when the work is organized into clear phases, you can finally see where you are, why you're there, and what tools actually belong to that stage. The 3-day healing intensive offers exactly that clarity, containment, and a structured path forward. Across 3 days, you move through narrative healing, reprocessing healing, and relational healing with focused guidance and support from me, the intensive who's gone through this and will continue. The intensive doesn't replace long-term healing. It simply shows your nervous system that inner work is possible and within your capacity. You survive that intensity of the 3 days and you recognize, like, I can do this. I'm not doing it every day of my life, but I just proved something to myself. It accelerates understanding, restores direction, and removes the guesswork that often leads to self blame or overwhelm. You receive 2.5 hours of coursework daily to understand your patterns and the phases, 1.5 hours of therapy daily to apply the tools to your personal story, 1 hour of coaching daily to integrate changes into relationships, work, health, and daily life, and an optional half-day group session for reflection and shared insight well after you're done. So we offer that group session well after, give you a little break. This structure helps you make sense of your healing. You don't leave fixed, you leave informed, grounded, and empowered with tools that feel usable and truly your own. Most of all, you leave knowing that healing isn't something to chase or perfect, it's something you're allowed to organize, inhabit, and grow into. This is the heart of the toolbox approach, and this is something I registered trademarked because I just want to stand by it for the rest of my life. And I don't want to own it, I want to give it away to you. It's the purpose of the 3-day healing intensive to really launch you into that approach and make it yours too. You can arrange your discovery call here. If you prefer a different way to connect or need accommodations, reach out and share what you need. The discovery call and all the setup required to tailor your intensive is free until you are ready to commit to the out of pocket fee that matches the market value of 7.5 months of therapy, insurance backed therapy, as equal to the power of the 3-day intensive. So check it out. Just message me, reach out. Lastly, don't forget the free resources on the Enter the Phases of Healing website. My book is there, all the free goodies are there. And heal on, everybody. I know you're doing the work. We all come to it differently, but reach out and let us know if we can help you organize it at any point in your journey.